Pressure to conform to conventional ideas about beauty is having dangerous consequences in China, particularly among women. It's leading to increasing cases of eating disorders like anorexia and bulimia. A study from 2019 estimated more than 1.5 million Chinese were suffering from an eating disorder. I'll be talking to someone who's experienced this firsthand in a moment. But first, this report.
Zhang Qinwen knows how to love and take care of her own body today, but she learned it the hard way. The 23-year-old still has vivid memories of the severe eating disorder that almost killed her. At that time, I was around 28 kilograms. It was shot not long before I was hospitalized. This was when I was being hospitalized. Zhang says her self-esteem was low, affected by extreme beauty standards shared on the internet. Like this one, women comparing their waists to the width of an A4 size paper. Such challenges are common on Chinese social media. They once convinced Zhang that skinniness will bring happiness, which only turned into a nightmare. I felt I could not walk by myself. My legs and feet didn't have any strength. My body couldn't function very well, and I couldn't even see very clearly. My hair was very fluffy, and I hardly had any hair left. I knew that I was seriously unwell, but I didn't dare go to the doctor. Now recovered, Zhang helped organize this exhibition against body shaming, a phenomenon experts say has skyrocketed in recent years. This stall, plastered with abusive messages, represents the pain and struggle many participants used to have. And this self-marriage ceremony, a pledge to cherish themselves for the rest of their lives. It moved every single one in the room. I had always thought I was an ugly girl since I was a kid and thought that people only like fair-skinned, thin girls. In the process of my recovery, I feel that a healthy skin tone, a sturdy body, and a strong heart are the most important things in this world. This is what Zhang keeps reminding herself every day. That confidence is what makes one beautiful.
Join me now from Hong Kong is Stephanie Ng, founder and executive director of Banter, a Hong Kong-based non-profit that shares resources and information on body image and mental health. Stephanie, welcome. This pursuit of the ideal body shape, are there any specific cultural factors in China, for instance, that are driving it?
Thank you for having me today, and I can speak a little bit about how there might be some cultural pressures based on my own experience and also in my research that I've learned about. And I think that something that's really prominent is that there is a link between the body, the way that it looks, and morality, so the way that we fundamentally are. So as a lot of us are familiar with, there tends to be a belief that individuals who are in smaller bodies are more disciplined or more successful, and individuals in larger bodies are seen as less disciplined or more lazy. And this link seems to be more pronounced in Chinese cultural settings, this link between physical appearance and morality, in the sense that this association is really fed to us from a really early age and is constantly reiterated in our daily lives. And something important to note about this link is also that it's really reiterated and reinforced in mealtime settings particularly, because mealtime settings are such crucial sites of interpersonal connection in Chinese contexts. So for example, a common idiom that's used in Chinese culture is that if you don't finish your bowl of rice, you're going to marry someone who has pimples all over their face. And so it is through this kind of cultural belief that links life outcomes with eating behaviors that create such a complex linkage between how we eat, how we look,
Right.
and who we fundamentally are.
And do these linkages extend to other areas of daily life as well? For example, in school or in your peer group, for instance?
Yeah, so it seems that, or especially in familial settings, it is pronounced because these are the places where you have this intergenerational passing on of knowledge. But it definitely can extend to school settings as well, because these are this is common knowledge, common cultural knowledge that can be pervasive in all social settings. So if every child has been fed this kind of belief, then everyone in the peer group will reinforce it as well. So yes, I would say that it is pervasive throughout different social groups. Yes.
Stephanie, how much of a link is there with social media, for instance, and the ideal version of beauty that we see in our times? Or is it just a case of the traditional linkages that you were referring to right now?
Yeah, this is a question that I've thought a lot about too, which is that how much of it is social media and how much of it is to do with cultural beliefs or beliefs that we've been taught by our family. And I think that there's no one answer to this, because with eating disorders and with all mental illness, all mental illnesses, it's a confluence of factors. It depends on the person's individual temperament as well. So if this person is very engages with social media a lot and takes these messages to heart, then social media messaging may be more prominent as a risk factor for them. But if this person is feels more accountable to, let's say, their family's expectations, or other kinds of expectations that they receive, then they would be influenced by those factors more. And in some cases, and in many cases actually, both of these things will come together and reinforce each other to create a very complex, intricate kind of pressure. So yeah.
And Stephanie, are these struggles unique to just women, or do men go through these as well?
Eating disorders don't discriminate. They affect anyone of any demographic trait. So any gender, any socioeconomic status, any and any background and any cultural background. So there's definitely no specific group that is exclusively impacted by eating disorders. But there's obviously a different set of manifestations that affect each group. So, for example, with women, there may be a greater obsession with thin ideal. With men, it may be manifested in the form of experiencing an obsession with the muscular ideal, for example. Right. So it manifests differently, but everyone can experience an eating disorder.
You spoke about your own experiences with eating disorders, and I wonder if that can help inform other people about the warning signs to watch out for. What is it that people can watch out for to alert themselves to what's happening with themselves or with others?
Absolutely, that's a great question. With warning signs, I think that there are a bunch of different symptoms that can manifest. But I think something that's very important is that linkage between morality and eating behaviors. So a big warning sign is when the person starts to say things like, if I don't eat in a certain way, then I'm a bad person, or the person expresses this kind of belief. Because when that happens, they can start to engage in disordered eating behaviors like skipping meals, like binging and purging. These kinds of behaviors become integrated into the person's sense of identity, and then starts becoming a pervasive pattern of behavior that becomes a deep part of how they behave and how they come to see themselves. So that's kind of a warning sign when you start to see this sense of attachment, sense of personal attachment to these behaviors.
Right. Stephanie, we'll have to leave it there for the time being, but thank you so much for joining us today with your very insightful views on this.
Thank you very much for having me.